they're just setting up.
Yes,
they can be sure that they can now see you properly.
How are you?
Very fine. Pleasure. Great to see you again.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members. Let me begin by acknowledging firstly the presence and leadership in our ranks of the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Amos Masondo, who will be doing the opening remarks to give an overview and objective of the session today. And we must also already, even if we're going to do so later, welcome the Speaker of Kenya, although here he is in his capacity as the chairperson of the Africa region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Welcome, sir. We also in advance welcome all the rest of our special guests, our Minister of International Relations, our Minister of Agriculture and Land Reform, former chairperson of CWP Africa Region, and of course welcome Secretary of our branch here, the Secretary to the National Council of Provinces, Advocate Mutibedi Pindela. Honorable members, we are glad that you are able to link up and join us to do what I call every term of office. We have to consider continuity as well as necessary changes to the programs we have been involved in. And from parliamentary diplomatic space, we are members of these various international organizations of parliaments. And so today, we are entering the launch of one of these. And we thought it is important that we say this because our parliament, like our government, is involved in multilateral organizations to pursue the objectives of our own constitution and our historical relationship with communities of the world through their parliaments and through their governments. So today we will give an opportunity to the, as I said, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces to go into the reasons for the launch today. And at the right time, we will be informed of the basis for what we are going to do, the election and or endorsement, as is the culture in the way in which we work. We will also be told of documents that has already been circulated to all members and request you to go deeply into them post this launch, and so that we can begin to do work. Any other additional information and need, we are conscious that this morning in the National Assembly, there is a sitting, as this is the last day before we go into the recess. This is an urgent matter that had to be done, and given the Constitutional Court rejection of the IEC's plea for the local government elections to be extended to February next year. And because of that, the program of Parliament had to urgently be shifted to provide members an opportunity to go and do their political work on the ground in our region. So for that reason, we request that you excuse us. If the program appears too short, we do intend naturally later to have deeper discussions of matters that will be only partially presented today. And we are glad that we have the kind of teams that are here. Others will join us as we proceed along the line, and this will be announced as and when we are able to agree. Now, with that having been said, may I invite Honorable Amos Masondo to speak to us. Honorable Masondo, have you unmuted?
Yes. No, thank you very much.
You. Now I can hear you. Thank you, Ndati. Thank you.
Yes. Greetings to everybody. Program Director, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and the convener of the CPA delegation, Honorable Lechisa Tsinodi. Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Nosibiyo Mapisa Ngagula. Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Sylvia Lucas. CPA Africa Region Chairperson and Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Justin Muturi. Former CPA Africa Region Chairperson, Honorable Lindwe Masego. Former Chairperson of Africa Region CWP, Land Reform and Rural Development, Honorable Togoti Tiza, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Naledi Pando, Honorable Speakers and Deputy Speakers of provincial legislatures, Honorable Members of Parliament and provincial legislatures, Deputy Secretary General of the CPA, Mr. Jarvis Matia, CPA Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. Program Director, allow me to thank you for this opportunity to make the opening remarks and to outline the strategic significance of today's launch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association National Branch, CPA National Branch, and the Commonwealth Women's Parliamentary CWP Chapter. We have for some time now been planning to schedule this important exercise. However, owing to the challenge of the availability of time as a result of competing engagements, taking into account our diverse participants, we took much longer than initially anticipated. This obviously suggests that we must try to find ways of creating space for the coordination of the work of the CPA and the CWP. As many would be aware, this session is necessitated by the fact that the Constitution of the CPA International and the CPA Africa Region require that all participants and legislatures should establish branches and CWP chapters. This is in order to enable parliamentarians to operationalize the activities of the association in their quest to advance parliamentary democracy and to respond to the objectives of promoting gender equality and equity in the work of the CPA. Further motivation for this session is that, one, The resolution of the 50th Cpa Africa Regional Conference held in Zanzibar, in Tanzania in 2019, placed more demands on all the Commonwealth parliaments to establish branches and CWP chapters as vehicles of implementing the strategic objectives of the region. 2, the resolution of the 64th CPA International Conference held in Uganda in Kampala, also in 2019, required a branch to operationalize them in responding to the strategic objectives of the association. And thirdly, the South African branch and sub-branch leaders continue to serve in governance structures of the CPA and attend executive committee meetings of the association, and as such deal with issues which require operationalization domestically. Therefore, Program Director, it stands to reason that we should formally organize ourselves so as to undertake these important tasks. Our overall purpose is to build an informed parliamentary community that is able to contribute to deepening the Commonwealth's democratic commitment and to further cooperation amongst its parliaments and legislatures. As the program reflects, we expect to deal with some critical matters in the context of the CPA. These include the issue of transformation of the CPA and the ongoing contradictions. The issue here, which will be expanded on, is the transformation of the status of the CPA from a charity to a diplomatic organization. Program Director, as you are aware, the mission of the Cpa Africa Region is, quote, to promote and protect the interests and perspectives of Cpa Africa regional parliaments and countries into the Commonwealth and beyond, and to promote gender equality, emancipation of women, and respect for human rights, freedoms, democracy, and good governance, close quote. In his address to the 38th Cpa Africa Region Conference held in Parliament, Cape Town in July 2007, then President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Thabo Mbeki, posed a question that remains critical about what is common in Commonwealth. He framed this question as follows, quote, if a question was to be put to all of us gathered here in Cape Town under the umbrella of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association as to what gives us our shared commonality, what would our answer be? Close quote. Quote, would the answer be that we are a Commonwealth because we speak the same language as that of our erstwhile colonizer? Or is it that we are a Commonwealth because we share a common and unique destiny? Close quote. I submit that our commonality in the Cpa Africa region should be defined by what we seek to achieve in the context of the broader advancement of the continent, irrespective of our individual colonial ties. As our mission suggests, we should go into the Commonwealth and beyond to promote our own interests and perspectives. For decades now, since the birth of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, in 1963, and the transformation into the African Union in 2002, the true unity of Africans has remained somewhat elusive. Within and beyond the Commonwealth, our collective mission should therefore be to achieve greater unity and solidarity between African countries and their people. It is for this reason that through its Agenda 2063, the AU has identified key programs and initiatives that can help to facilitate the unity of Africans. These programs and initiatives are intended to accelerate Africa's economic growth and development, and to promote our common identity by celebrating our history and our vibrant culture. Our common and unique identity lies in us preserving and promoting the African cultural heritage. In short, it lies in us focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us. When it comes to economic development, the new African Continent Free Trade Area, which is a project of the AU, provides us with a unique opportunity to commonly shape our destiny. It is an instrument to assist us to attain inclusive and sustainable development across the continent. It is a response to the need to create an expanded and secure market for the goods and services of state parties. These, in my view, are just some of the key strategic issues that are central to us building genuine and lasting unity, with a view, of course, of sharing a common and unique destiny. Clearly, we should, through the Commonwealth Africa Region, seek to pursue our collective interests as a continent, the basis of which is the unity of the African people. It is true that the process of decolonization did not leave the colonizers without a neo-colonial agenda on Africa. Even as we speak, we're experiencing a new scramble for Africa by super and middle powers, which will further divide us if we fail at addressing the question of unity. Program Director, in conclusion, our mission today is to reinforce our CPA machinery and to calibrate it so as to pursue our interests and perspectives as part of prioritizing the African agenda. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Masondo. That's a very helpful overview, if I may say so, from the chair, that identifies the reasons behind the launch today and the goals we use to achieve in the international community of nations as represented inside the CPA in the Africa region. Thank you very much, sir. Honorable members, as I indicated earlier on, we will shift the remarks of Honorable Maseko, who is unable to be with us, so that we give precedence firstly to the Minister of International Relations. I hope he's here, to be followed immediately by Honorable Justine Muturi. We have this flexibility, fortunately, because both the remarks of Honorable Lindiwe Maseko are recorded, as well as Honorable Didiza, because of their inability to be here. So we are using this flexibility at least to manage time, so that we can give precedence to the remarks of our Minister of International Relations, as well as the Honorable, the chairperson of the Africa region, Justine Muturi, the Speaker of Kenya. I would like to, the Speaker will be present shortly, if she's not already connected, so that we are able to be with her for that brief period. She has also indicated she will not be able to stay throughout the program, but she will be with us shortly if she's not already connected. Let's proceed to give the Minister, Honorable Minister Pando.
Deputy Speaker, it doesn't seem like the minister is connected already.
Okay. Let's I would like to have a speak. In that instance, can we include the remarks of Honorable Didiza, and then we would like both the Minister of International Relations and Justine Muturi, the chairperson of the region, to speak following each other. So I'm just lowering it a little bit. They will pardon me. I hope that they don't mind for that reason. Let's put in the few minutes of the presentation by Honorable Minister, the former chairperson of CWP. It's an important background, just as the chairperson has done from a CWP perspective. There'll be a brief moment, I hope, as they connect.
Sifa, can you load the video of the Honorable Didiza?
Program Director, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Masondo, Deputy Minister of National Assembly, Honorable Sinodi, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Sylvia Lucas, Speaker of Parliament of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, and the Chairperson of the Cpa Africa Region, Honorable Justine Muturi, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Naledi Pandor, Advocate Lindwe Maseko, former Chairperson of the Cpa Africa Region, honorable members. It is an honor and privilege that today we launch the South African parliamentary branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Commonwealth Women's Parliament. This public launch today serves as a commitment that South Africa's Parliament has on the vision of the Cpa Africa Region, as well as Cpa International. Program Director, it is important to highlight that this public launch does not mean as a South African Parliament, we have not been members and a branch in good standing. We are. As the sixth Parliament, we have decided to use this platform as a way in which we popularize the work of the CPA amongst our members and community. Our provinces, this very Parliament, and our parliamentary staff have been active members who have participated in the structures and programs of the association and shared valuable insights on how we can strengthen parliamentary democracy, and more importantly, on how we can increase the role of women parliamentarians and legislators. Each term of office of the new parliament is supposed to launch a branch and nominate the executive that will manage the day-to-day programs and activities of the association. Program Director, allow me to honor and pay our tribute to the late Deputy Speaker of the Republic of Cameroon, Amelia Lefaka, who was the member of the CPA and CWP Africa Region. She passed away last year. Honorable Lefaka was our CPA International Chairperson. In her short term, we saw changes in the governance of the association at international level, addressing issues of equity within the association, particularly as it relates to funding of activities of regions and CWP. We wish, through you, Honorable Muturi, our chairperson of the CPA Africa Region, to extend our condolences to the Lefaka family and to the CPA Africa Region and CPA International. Program Director, in reflecting on the role of Parliament of South Africa in the CPA and CWP, it is important to unpack what the association represents. CPA is a membership-based association which brings members of parliaments and sub-national parliaments together, irrespective of gender, race, religion, or cultural persuasions, who are united by community of interest for the respect of the rule of law and individual rights and freedoms, and by the pursuit of the positive ideals of parliamentary democracy. This association allows parliamentarians and parliamentary staff to collaborate on issues of mutual interest and to share good practice. Its mission is, I quote, to promote knowledge of the constitutional, legislative, economic, social, and cultural aspects of parliamentary democracy, with particular reference to the countries of the Commonwealth, close quote. This association has members who also comprise of regional associations like us in the Africa region. Bound by this mission, the Cpa Africa Region developed its mission that seeks to address the challenges that our continent face. Our mission as the Cpa Africa Region is, I quote, to promote and protect the interests and perspectives of Cpa Africa regional parliaments and countries into the Commonwealth and beyond, and to promote gender equality, emancipation of women, and respect for human rights, freedoms, democracy, and governance. Having shared briefly what the association is about, I wish to reflect on what has been our participation as a branch in the work of the association. As part of strengthening our parliamentary democracy in the continent, we've contributed through the development of policies and statutes that govern the association. We've also led in the articulation of important subjects that as an association required us to address. We've also taken into consideration some of the important resolutions of the African Union, as well as the different regional communities. Some among these have been the emancipation of women, the increased representation of women in parliaments and legislatures. Conducting gender sensitization workshop has been one of the strategies that we've used to actually increase the participation of women. Some of these have been hosted in our country, particularly by our subnational branches, such as Gauteng in 2018. At a country level, we have transformed our parliamentary programming to allow women's multi-party caucuses to be given space in the parliamentary and legislative programs to ensure that women parliamentarians have an opportunity to reflect on issues of common interest. As part of the transformation of parliaments and legislatures, we ensured that we have a women's committee here in our own parliament that reflects on legislative programs, budgets, and executive programs so that they can hold the executive accountable on how it advances issues of gender equality and women's emancipation. One of the matters that the CWP chapter in the 5th administration of our parliament pioneered was actually the issue of access of sanitary towels for girls. Working with other CWP chapters in the region, we've looked at strategies to increase women's participation in parliaments, legislatures, and local councils. We've done this by engaging political parties, examining their policies, and how these enable women's participation at a party level. Secondly, we've worked with civil society, women's organizations in order to put pressure to various parties and parliaments to ensure that these actually create an enabling environment for increased participation of women. Thirdly, in other jurisdictions, CWP members have influenced changes in electoral systems in order to create space and possibilities for increased women's participation in parliaments and legislatures. And I hope Honorable Muturi will share with us the Kenyan experience. During the development of the Sustainable Development Goals, our members of the CWP in the Africa region and international contributed in ensuring that the gender agenda is not lost in the debate. This work was done in collaboration with the UN Women, Commonwealth women ministers responsible for the portfolio of women in their countries, as well as other multilateral organizations. Program Director, I've made these reflections in order to show how, as a branch, we can work with others in sharing best practice on issues that seek to strengthen parliamentary democracy. Similarly, being part of the association have enabled us to learn from others. It also created opportunities for solidarity in addressing global challenges that we face as humanity. I also want to highlight that one of the achievements of this region, particularly this parliament of which is ours, has been to build capacity of members of parliament on issues of governance, but also supporting members through bursaries to pursue their studies. This experience is shared in our association, led the CPA International to identify Wits University to actually offer training online and physically to other members of parliaments in the region so that they too can actually use that facility and its programs in strengthening the capacity of parliamentarians in our region. I wish the 6th administration branch a successful tenure as an active member of the CPA NCWP in the Africa region and international. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Didiza. We really appreciate that useful background. You and Minister Pandor participated actively in these programs before, as I told you the other day, that you broke ranks and joined the executive. Although you still do Commonwealth related work. We appreciate the insights you have given us. I believe the Minister, Honorable Naledi Pandor, Dr. Naledi Pandor is on the platform. Let's go straight into your remarks, ma'am, and welcome, because we invited you as a previous presiding officer, and but also your new portfolio is particularly relevant to giving and helping us appreciate parliamentary diplomacy and how it complements the work we do. I'm just saying it this way this morning because I slept and woke up. Thank you very much, Minister Pandor. Please speak.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tsinodi, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa's Parliament, Honorable Masondo, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces of the Parliament of South Africa, Honorable Didiza, the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reform, Speaker Mituri of the National Assembly of Kenya, colleagues and friends. Deputy Speaker, it's an honor for me to be invited to participate in this parliamentary event to launch the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association National Branch and the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians Chapter. I have fond memories of my service as a member of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. I also was privileged to serve in its executive, and my most abiding memory is training new members of parliament of the Zambian newly elected parliament, where there was a very formidable opposition presence, and you had a palpable sense that these would be parliamentarians who would struggle to develop a unified working relationship in the legislature. Through the CPA training, particularly assistance in the formulation of rules for the House, I believe we were able to assist that parliament to find its feet and operate as the legislature of Zambia rather than as parties in opposition to each other. I won't dwell too much on the history of South Africa and the Commonwealth, as I believe this was very properly addressed by my colleague, Minister Didiza. I will reflect on our country's approach to multilateralism in the context of being a member state of the Commonwealth Group of Nations. I would stress, while we share Commonwealth identity and relationship, we are fairly different countries. Really, our heritage is from our colonial history, and then the form of parliamentary governance that we have established. But in terms of national interest, there are distinctive differences. The overall vision of the foreign policy of South Africa is articulated very clearly in the National Development Plan, our NDP. And it's driven by what we have stated as our national, regional, and continental priorities related to the promotion of a safe, peaceful, and prosperous region, a continent, and a fair and just world. So South Africa, the region, Africa, and the global community, becoming a fair and just world matter to us. We recently agreed as the Cabinet of South Africa on a national interest document that provides further guidance on how we intend to advance our values and what we state them as well as our interests in an increasingly complex international arena. And this is what the members, as parliamentarians of the CPA, will be confronted with. The global political context is a dynamic one, as the political and economic interests of countries are not ever static, Chair. They change. This dynamism is reflected in how countries organize themselves into groups and associations in the international arena, and how, as such collectives and individual sovereign states, they engage with formal institutions of governance. You might find a particular posture in the Commonwealth, a very different one in the European Union, another in the context of the United Nations. So we need to be aware that we have many institutions of global governance in which we exercise our perspectives on national interest and on regional and continental matters. We also, of course, express our interests in our premier multilateral institution, the United Nations, but in a number of specialized agencies as well that deal with critical world affairs. All of us have found that the COVID-19 pandemic has added to this complexity as it challenged the commitments to global cooperation in the context of a disease that certainly requires solidarity and cooperation to save people's lives, to protect their health, and to safeguard livelihoods globally. But what we saw was that countries could not attach to this reality of cooperation consistently in the course of the pandemic. Some, particularly some of the richer countries, showed a lack of commitment to ensure equitable access to the means to end the pandemic across all regions of the world. This reluctance and lack of commitment has resulted in the loss of lives, as well as giving rise to a twin-track global economic recovery, and not what we anticipated as the world recovering together. What we have seen is rapid economic growth in fully or majority vaccinated countries of the North, and slow economic recovery and even stagnating economies in the developing world. These issues are important for parliamentarians to consider as we launch these important chapters of the Commonwealth in South Africa today. The pandemic and the skewed responses to it have harmed the most vulnerable people globally. This group of vulnerable includes women and large poor constituencies, which are represented by the majority of us as parliamentarians in Africa. It is in that regard, Chairperson, as we consider our place in the CPA, to recall the political values espoused as the values of the Commonwealth. These include the promotion of democracy, of human rights, of international peace and security, as well as of dignity. Colleagues might recall that at the very first Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held on South African soil in 1999, the outcome document, which was labeled the Durban Communique, foregrounded the idea of people-centered development in a globalizing world. The Durban Communique sought to promote more equitable trade rules among nations, including within member states of the Commonwealth. It called for collaboration of what was termed the Commonwealth family at the Uruguay round of multilateral trade negotiations at which the World Trade Organization was established. Today, I think we should again take this opportunity to call for collaboration by this family as we seek as South Africa and India to negotiate a temporary waiver of trade-related intellectual property rights in relation to therapeutics, vaccines, and diagnostics, which negotiation will place people's lives and livelihoods in a more secure setting should we succeed in this endeavor in the World Trade Organization. Our government will remind all members of the Commonwealth of its values, which emerged from the Commonwealth Harare Declaration of 1991 and those in the Charter of the Commonwealth that was agreed to in 2012. These declarations serve to concretize the values of anti-racism, the promotion of human rights and dignity, and commitments to reducing inequalities between its members at the forums that we, as members of government, engage in. These are the heads of government meetings, the meetings of ministers responsible for international relations and cooperation within the Commonwealth, and other sectoral ministerial meetings. So we as the executive have made particular commitments that parliamentarians should examine us on. We would also urge our business leaders who participate in the Commonwealth Business Council to remind their counterparts of these values when they meet from time to time. Deputy Speaker, I would like today to use this opportunity to ask parliamentarians present here to engage with their counterparts in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Chapters, and particularly with the global Commonwealth Women Parliamentarian Chapters, on the principles I have referred to. We derive value from our engagement with our partners in this Commonwealth family when we as South Africans work to reinforce the Commonwealth's core political values, which are broadly in line with our own vision of an ideal and just multilateral system that is based on inclusivity and legitimacy. It is the view of South Africa that we should always strive to build a better understanding and appreciation of our values and principles in the multilateral and plurilateral formations that we engage in. Of course, Chairperson, we do not always get all the outcomes we want, but through consistently engaging in and leading in norm-shaping discourses in these fora, over time, our values, our principles and interests will become reflected in agreements that shape global governance agendas. So while some may believe we are too idealistic, we must never tire of pushing the highest values and common interests. Deputy Speaker, let me conclude by reiterating our firm commitment as South Africa to multilateralism as the best way, in our view, for states to resolve conflicts and other global challenges. We fully support the United Nations in the role that it must play for the globe. The Commonwealth family is an important forum for us and we should engage strategically within it to advance our national interests and values and those of our region and continent. I really congratulate you on hosting this meeting, and I wish the chapter all the best in taking up these tasks through the various chapters on the African continent. We also do have meetings as African Commonwealth Parliamentarians, and we should use those as occasions to set out the continent's brief and to ensure we pursue those goals. Chairperson, Deputy Speaker, and Chairperson of the Ncop, let me thank you once more for this opportunity, and I wish the chapter well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We really appreciate that locating the work of Parliament in the broader, both national and international program to achieve our objectives. Thank you. The insights you have shared with us on the various declaration, communique, as important source document, including the Commonwealth Charter, which contains elements of this, are critical. So thank you very much. We hope to continue a conversation with you and our diplomats in the countries in which parliaments that we work with operate. We think there's a platform there for us to explore and to share from time to time. The Speaker is briefed on this. We hope that all of us will find a way to communicate. Thank you very much. We now request the Speaker of Kenya, the chairperson of the Africa region of the CPA, and it would be great to give him an opportunity to do so. We requested him to speak not only because of his leadership of the Africa region, that if he has an opportunity to join us to do so, because we are a mere branch only in South Africa, whereas he leads the entirety of the African continent in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. So we, with great humility, appreciate what he has done to join us today. He was also our expert, who, as the Africa region, we recommended he join the rest of the people from other regions to discuss the question of the international status of the CPA as against its recognition and registration as a charity organization. So he was our point man, if I may put it so, in that struggle to transform the CPA in an international organization. I'm glad to suggest that the work he has done is very absolutely appreciated across the board, and it now informs the CPA International. Honorable Muturi, please speak to us, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lechesa Senoli, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa. The Honorable Amos Masondo, the Chairperson of the Ncop, Honorable Ministers Tokozile Didiza, my very good friend, the Minister Dr. Padal, Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, my great friend, Honorable Lidiwe Maseko, former chairperson on the Speaker of the, what do you call the legislature? Gauteng. Yeah. Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the Ncop, Honorable Lucas, the clerk of the Ncop, Advocate Pidela, and the branch secretary. Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir.
It gives me great pleasure to speak to the members of the CPA South Africa branch, especially at this auspicious occasion of launching of the CPA branch, as well as the CWP chapters in the Republic of South Africa. The Honorable Lechesa Senodli and team requested me to speak very briefly on the transformation of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and ongoing contradictions within that effort. Before I go into the history, allow me, Honorable Chairperson, to recognize with great admiration the work done by the Honorable Lidwe Maseko in moving the motion when she was Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, the motion seeking to transform the CPA from its current status, which motion led to some of the activities that I will be speaking to today. And indeed thank the South African branch as a whole for the support that they gave that effort, because without that unwavering support, we will not have been able to get to where we have reached as of now. Very, very briefly, Chairperson, just to note by way of history that our association is 110 years old, having been founded in the year 1911 as the Empire Parliamentary Association, and its affairs were being administered at that time by the United Kingdom branch. And the original membership was Australia, Canada, Newfoundland, New Zealand, and South Africa, as well as the United Kingdom. And evolving with the Commonwealth, in 1948, as we all know, the association, which was an empire, changed its name to the current Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And the rules were also changed to enable all member branches to participate in the association's management and establish a separate secretariat to manage its affairs. It's also worthwhile noting that the association collaborates with parliaments and other organizations to achieve its statement of purpose, which I think is well pronounced in the preamble to the constitution of the association. And also to note that it brings parliamentarians and parliamentary staff together to exchange views and ideas among themselves and with experts in various fields, and to identify benchmarks of good practices and new policy options they can adopt or adapt in the governance of their societies. Currently, the association comprises of 180 branches formed in legislatures within the Commonwealth countries, which subscribe to parliamentary democracy. CPA branches are currently grouped geographically into 9 regions for purposes of representation at the Executive Committee and for the organization of regional conferences and seminars on parliamentary practices and procedures. It may be good for me to just name the 9 regions. They are Africa, Asia, Australia, British Islands and Mediterranean, the commonly referred to as the BIM, Canada, Caribbeans, the Americas and the Atlantic, India, Pacific, and Southeast Asia. The General Assembly of the Association is the supreme authority and is constituted by delegates to the annual Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference, the CPC. And the Assembly has the ultimate authority to determine the policy and management of the association, including the annual membership fee and other financial obligations of the membership of the association. The officers of the association are the president, the vice president, the chairperson of the executive committee, the vice chairperson, the treasurer, the chair of the CWP, which is the Commonwealth Parliamentarians, women parliamentarians, and the small branches chairperson. The president is nominated by the branch, which is to host the next plenary Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference, and the vice president by the branch to host the succeeding year. The constitution of the CPA vests the control and management of the activities and business of the association in the executive committee, popularly referred to as the EXCO, which consists of approximately 35 members led by the chairperson of the CPA and meets prior to and just after a general assembly of the association to which it reports. The executive committee also holds second meetings in another Commonwealth country midway between general assemblies. The secretariat of the CPA headquarters is located in London, in the United Kingdom. It's headed by the Secretary General, who is responsible for interpreting and implementing policies and enhancing the activities and international relations. And the current secretary is Mr. Stephen Twigg from the United Kingdom, who is a former member of parliament. The Cpa Africa Region is one of the 9 regional associations of the CPA, and it's made up of national parliaments and provincial, state and territorial legislatures of the member countries of the Commonwealth in Africa. It is headquartered in Tanzania and is headed by the clerk of the National Assembly of Tanzania as the regional secretary. The current regional secretary is Madam Nenelwa Mwihambi. The Africa region comprises 18 countries, namely Botswana, Cameroon, Ghana, Kenya, Lesotho, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, the Seychelles, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Swaziland, Tanzania, including Zanzibar, Uganda, and Zambia. In addition, the 9 South African sub-branches and over 35 sub-branches from Nigeria also form part of the regional bloc. The transformation of the CPA and the contradictions inherent in it, as you requested me, Mr. Chair, to discuss. The CPA Africa region, which constitutes the majority of the CPA membership, has been at the forefront of the movement seeking to change the status of the CPA to 4 key contradictions that exist in and affect the operations of the association. The first, the CPA is registered in the UK as a charity. As such, it is not currently allowed to engage in the promotion of parliamentary democracy, which in itself is not a charitable purpose under the law of England and Wales. And by comparison, the Commonwealth Foundation changed its status principally because the nature of its activities precluded it from being regarded as a charity under the law of England and Wales. Sections of the membership of the association, including, most importantly, the Cpa Africa region, have questioned the propriety and legality of making remittances that are essentially public funds appropriated by their legislatures to a charitable institution. Additionally, as per the current constitution and English law, a change of the status of the association without it being granted privileges and immunities would subject it to additional taxation, and its existing assets would continue to be used for charitable purposes. And here, Mr. Chair, is where I thank the work done by those who have been in office before us, and more particularly, Honorable Lidwe Maseko. The second, the association and its office holders are not accorded the privileges and immunities necessary to recognize their prestige and dignity in the same manner as other organs of the Commonwealth. A lack of privileges and immunities diminishes the standing of the CPA in comparison with the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Commonwealth Foundation, as well as other comparable international parliamentary organizations, such as the Assemblée Internationale de Francophonie and the Interparliamentary Union, which have been granted functional privileges and immunities in their host countries. Third, the lack of privileges and immunities for the CPA and its office holders negatively affects the independence of the organization from interference by UK authorities. As a charity, the association is regulated by the Charity Commission and is subject to general UK law. The regulator possesses invasive powers that are not compatible with the nature of the CPA and its functions. And here it is important for me to point out that the UK Charities Commission Act of 1968 is the one that governs to date the operations of all bodies that have charitable purposes. Fourth, the lack of privileges and immunities for the CPA negatively affects the expected neutrality and credibility of the association. As currently constituted, the CPA may become beholden to the regulator or the laws of the UK. It needs to maintain its neutrality in order to discharge its international functions and be seen as a credible organization by its members and others. To address this, these are the steps that have been taken. An expert committee was established by the 63rd General Assembly to look into the legal status of the CPA, and it submitted its report recommending A, that the association be reconstituted in the United Kingdom as a parliamentary institution with an international vocation, with functional privileges and immunities to reflect the chairperson of the EXCO, obtain legal, financial, and other advice to determine the feasibility of reconstituting the association, including exploring with the government of the United Kingdom the enactment of relevant UK legislation that would provide functional privileges and immunities to the reconstituted organization. The recommendations of the expert committee were adopted by the 63rd CPA General Assembly held in Dhaka, Bangladesh on the 7th of November, 2017. On the 15th of November, 2017, the then Secretary General of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Akbar Khan, wrote to Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, the Minister of State for the Commonwealth and the UN, informing him of the CPA resolution. On 10th of December 2017, Lord Ahmad wrote back acknowledging receipt of the Secretary General's letter and advised that his office would need a detailed business case for the grant of the privileges sought and that the proposed change would require legislation in the UK. In March of 2018, the EXCO recommended the establishment of a small advisory working group composed of the Secretary General and the representatives from Africa, being myself, and thanks for the support accorded to me by the Africa region, spearheaded by the Honorable Lidio Maseko and Tokozila Diliza. The British Islands and the Mediterranean, being represented by the Honorable Roberta Blackman-Nunes, Canada, then represented by the Honorable Alexandra Mendes, and Southeast Asia, then represented by the Honorable Kiandi, prepare the business case. The working group met in London on June 9th in 2018 and agreed on a draft business case requesting the United Kingdom to recognize the CPA as an international interparliamentary organization and granted the minimum privileges as an international interparliamentary parliament, the core provisions of which would look like conferring on the CPA the legal capacities of a body corporate. B, providing the CPA as an organization shall have the following privileges and immunities, being number one, exemption or relief from taxes at least equivalent to those enjoyed by the CPA as a charity. Two, inviolability of official archives, premises, and communications. And thirdly, immunity from prosecution and legal process, except in relation to certain matters. C, confer on the Secretary General of the CPA the following privileges and immunities if the Secretary General is not a UK citizen. Number one, privileges and immunities similar to those afforded to diplomats. Number two, exemption or relief from taxes and rates. Number three, exemption and privileges in respect of official papers and documents equivalent to protection afforded to diplomats. And number four, immunity from prosecution and legal processes in respect of acts or omissions in the course of the performance of official duties, except in relation to certain civil matters. That business case was adopted by the Executive Committee on the 8th of November 2018 and submitted to the UK government via Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, the minister responsible for Commonwealth and United Nations affairs. In Ottawa in 2019, the EXCO established a working group on governance consisting of 9 regional representatives, including the Honorable Speaker, supported by their respective regional secretaries, with the CPA's chairperson and treasurer as ex-officio members. The working group is also supported by the Secretary General and the Secretariat in London. The working group formally met for the first time in the margins of the 64th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Conference in Kampala, Uganda, in September of 2019, and decided that the Honorable Speaker John Ajaka, as he then was, from Australia, at its chairperson, and the terms of reference being to identify what governance arrangements will be necessary to implement and support the transition of the CPA to a new international interparliamentary organization, and set a timetable for such work to be undertaken to align with the anticipated bespoke UK legislation establishing the new CPA as soon as possible. May I report that the Working Group on Governance held a virtual meeting on the 12th of January 2021 to consider, among others, a paper to be presented by the Secretary General, the Secretary General's report on the meeting with Lord Ahmad with regard to the UK government's consideration of the business case. The UK government had indicated through Lord Ahmad that its exit from the European Union would consume majority of its legislative program at the time of the submission of the business case. But Britain's exit from the European Union was finalized, as we all know, on the 31st of December, 2020. Discussions are therefore ongoing with the UK government with regard to the introduction of the proposed legislation granting the CPA and its office holders the necessary privileges and immunities that account to its proposed change of status from a charity to an international interparliamentary organization. Mr. Chairperson, I beg to move and report, but once again record my appreciation to the support that has been accorded to me by the Africa region. Thank you very much, members.
Thank you very much, Speaker Muturi, Chairperson. We really appreciate that useful background and history of the Africa region's campaign to transform the CPA into an international organization so that we play an even better role. So thank you very much. It provides, I suspect, the kind of information that many of our members have always sought to appreciate better. So thank you very much. The members from across our province, our provinces, the subnational leadership, the speakers there, and deputy speakers, we really appreciate their presence. And my colleague, the deputy chairperson of the ANC, Sylvia Lucas, and the work we've been doing around sectoral parliaments are absolutely relevant to the work of the CWP, for example, but also of the work that we've been doing also in relation to the main programs of our institution. So we really appreciate your input. Let me see that we move to the next step, and I suggest that we take the presentation by Honorable Lindiwe Maseko before we move into the formal process of the launch, which we have asked Advocate Pindela to lay the foundation for that. And in fact, he will be led by the chairperson of the NCOP so that we table a few ideas and things and then formally launch the branch. For now, I request that we take the presentation by Honorable Lindiwe Maseko. We might have to cut it because of constraints of time, but we promise that all presentations that we have received will be available on our system. And we will also be able to send links to any member who is interested in wanting to follow through at a more leisurely time the proceedings of this morning. So let's put in the recording of Madam Lindiwe Maseko, Advocate Maseko.
Good day to the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, all presiding officers present, members of Parliament, the Secretary to Parliament, Secretary to the National Assembly, Secretary to the NCOP, and all the admin staff present, ladies and gentlemen. I've been requested to speak about the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association as a former member, and it's a pleasure, and I'm grateful to have been offered this opportunity to speak about something that was very dear to my heart. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, commonly known as CPA, as previously known as the Empire Parliamentary Association, is an organization of the British origin that consists of a number of branches that exist in 169 national states, provincial and territorial parliaments. The branches are grouped into 9 Commonwealth regions, being Africa, Asia, Australia, British Isles and Mediterranean, Canada, America and Atlantic, India, Pacific, and Southeast Asia. These regions, like Africa, are irrespective of gender, race, culture, and religion, committed, among other things, to respect the human rights and freedoms and the pursuit of the ideals of democracy and good governance, build understanding and unity between countries of the region and the continent, promote the interest of all regions into the Commonwealth and beyond, promote and maintain gender equality and emancipation of women, promote knowledge and education concerning the constitutional, legislative, economic, social, and cultural system of member countries in all the regions. The CPA was further established with the intention to focus on the parliamentary practices and procedures, good governance, and financials whose anticipated goal is to engender good parliamentary practices. This association tackles topical issues that are relevant and beneficial towards the present and future of the country's democracies and adding more value to the parliamentary practices. Looking at the CPA International Mission Statement, the association's mission is to promote its advancement by enhancing knowledge and understanding of democratic governance. It seeks to build an informed parliamentary community to enable such community to deepen the Commonwealth democratic continent and further cooperation among parliaments and legislatures. By so doing, the association designed programs that are meant to regular consultation among Commonwealth members, fostering cooperation and understanding and promotion of the study of and respect of good parliamentary practices. Through the CPA, countries agreed to conduct conferences. Thus, the CPA conferences, in order to exchange and characterize the global landscape during the conferences, members of the parliament and members of provincial legislatures and territories and states from different country branches gain an opportunity to interact and exchange views of available methods and allow them an opportunity to influence policies and rules with regard to challenges that confronts the country members of the Commonwealth. Such challenges include, among others, the global economic meltdown, climate change, the civil unrest, and other natural disastrous situations, and threaten growth towards human development, poverty, and food crisis. And adding to that is the current COVID-19 pandemic that the world is facing. The objectives of the CPA are to encourage parliamentary democracy, participating in the association activities, networking, information sharing, facilitating interbranch and international networking, and taking such actions as much as may be desired necessary to realize the aims and objectives of the member branches across. The aim of the association is to promote knowledge of the Constitution, legislative, economic, social, and cultural aspect of parliamentary democracy, with particular reference to the countries of the Commonwealth of Nations. The association must further pursue its aim beside the use of conference seminars and meetings through the provision of facilities for the exchange of visits among members, branches of the association. The association also publish any of its material developed that are relevant to the aims and the activities of the association, which will include regular publications like the Parliamentarians that members, I believe, do receive. They are done now electronically. And once a member of parliament or legislature or state territory, you will always receive the Parliamentarian. The association must also, for the purpose of meeting its aim, continuously maintain a centered dissemination and exchange of information on parliamentary matters. The branches of the CPA is that the association is composed of branches that are formed within the legislatures, that are found within those countries that are recognized as members of the Commonwealth by the Commonwealth heads of government, and the dependencies of such respective countries. It should further be noted that not all the legislatures qualifies to establish the branch seconded to them to be members of the CPA. It only calls for those legislatures that are recognized by the domestic laws as an assembly and which is competent to enact the national, state, provincial, or territorial legislation, and if its members sit by due processes of domestic law and functions as a parliamentary body. We must also take note that it's not only those countries that were colonized by the British that are members of the CPA. The CPA has since also accepted applications from Mozambique, which is now a member of the CPA, Cameroon, which was colonized by the French, but it's the French and the English, and also Rwanda, which was also a French colony. And that shows the diversity of the CPA and those countries associating themselves with what the goals of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is. The membership of such branches may be suspended if the branch is more than 12 months in arrears in paying its prescribed annual membership fee. The Executive Committee of the Association may further rescind such suspension where it feels satisfied that the branch is able to and willing to meet its official obligations. When rescinding such suspension, the association may waive any of or all of the membership fee and other financial obligation of the branches outstanding at the time of its suspension. On the financial obligation of branches, Section 9 of the Constitution of the CPA states that each branch shall be liable to pay his or her prescribed membership fee by the 1st of January of each financial year and to fulfill other prescribed financial obligation of its membership. Furthermore, the branch shall not acquire financial obligations during periods in which its right of membership has been suspended or when its membership has been placed in abeyance. Over and above that, the termination will affect any branch that terminates its membership fee for the year and which is duly notified and other financial obligation in which they then drew to the association. The members of the Executive Committee, the body plays, that body of the EXCO plays a significant role on the day-to-day running of the association and to control the affairs of the association. Its membership shall not in anyhow be discriminatory to anyone, its committee members can either be officer of the association, regional representation, chairperson of this Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians, acting or regional representatives, and alternate regional representatives. The powers of the executive are enshrined in Section 26 of the Constitution and provide that additional to its function, the Executive Committee shall be expected to be competent when exercising all powers vested upon it. It may determine the venue of the next planned conference where it has not been determined by the General Assembly, and may, for a good cause, when performing its powers, the Executive Committee should, by all means, seek to maintain a regional balance among its members and also in the subcommittees and the staff of the Secretariat. Apart from the above mentioned duties, the Executive Committee shall cover the following: they manage and control the assets of the association, establish finance committee, determine the establishment and the terms and conditions of employment of the staff of the Secretariat, present to the General Assembly all reports of activities of the association since the previous General Assembly, present to the General Assembly the budget of the association for the next financial year and its financial projections for subsequent financial years, submit audited accounts of the association. On voting during the voting during the General Assembly, each delegate of the branch of a CPA who is present at the General Assembly meeting is entitled to vote. It is only the presiding officer who is entitled to vote in the elections of the officers of the association and the regional representative. It should, however, also be noted that in the event of equality of votes, the questions will be decided in the negative. Coming to Cpa Africa Region, the region emanates from the Cpa International and it consists of 4 sub-regions, being West, Central, East, and Southern sub-regions. Each of the sub-regions has a number of branches that constitute its membership. Furthermore, Africa Region has 6 regional representatives that sits at the international CPA and also at the regional CPA executive. The 2 are from Southern Africa, the other 2 are from West Africa. Those are due to the number of branches that those 2 sub-regions have, one from Central Africa and one from East Africa. National parliaments are referred to as national branches, and states, provincial and territorial assemblies and legislatures or parliaments are referred to as subnationals. For instance, in the case of South Africa, the National Assembly or National Parliament is referred to a national branch, and provinces will be referred to as subnational branches. On the branches of the sub-regions, they are categorized different from any other organization that are there in the region and beyond. Southern Africa sub-region consists of 13 branches, being South Africa, that is Parliament, national, and it's 9 provinces. So South Africa on its own has got 10 branches. So each province also is independent. So there's 9 provinces subnational. There's also Namibia, Lesotho, and Swaziland. With West Africa sub-region, it consists of 41 branches, being Nigeria Federal and its 36 states. Then there's states that are now subnational branches. And there's also the Gambia, there's Ghana, there's Sierra Leone, and Cameroon. Central Africa consists of 4 branches, being Zambia, Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, and East Africa region consists of 6 branches, being Tanzania and its territory Zanzibar as a subnational branch. There's also Kenya, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Uganda. So Southern Africa, you notice that some of the branches that are in Central or in East, in the language that you know used to be belonging to SADC, but not in this case of the CPA. The CPA Africa has passed its own constitution, which was drawn from the CPA International Constitution. Its constitution outlines its aims and objectives, additional to those of the international constitution, which among others include to promote the interests, perspectives of Africa into the Commonwealth and beyond, to promote knowledge and education concerning the constitutional, legislative, economic, social, and cultural systems of member countries in the region and beyond, promote and maintain gender equality and emancipation of women, promote respect for human rights and freedoms, and pursue the ideals of democracy and good governance. Membership of Cpa Africa Region is open to the national parliament, provincial, state, or territorial legislatures of a member country that constitute itself as such by resolution, and to all registered and current branches of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in the region. Cpa Africa Region is the first region of the CPA to produce and adopt a strategic plan. That was in 2008 to 2011. A SWOT analysis was conducted to review the institutional strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strategic plan also identified 7 key results areas which are in line with its 5 aims and objectives, but went beyond and include to develop and implement a strong resource in human, financial, and technical mobilization plan, and also to raise awareness and positioning of the CPA. The executive itself, at the Cpa Africa Region that was held in Nigeria, River State, in 2009, the constitution was amended to accommodate the new proposed directive, which was adopted by the annual general meeting, and it consisted of the chairperson, who will serve a 3-year term, the vice chairperson, the president. The president will then be the speaker of the hosting branch until the next AGM. The vice president is the speaker of the next hosting branch. Then there was treasurer, there's vice treasurer, and every national branch is entitled to a branch representative. For states, provinces, and territories, they are entitled to 1 representative for every 8 subnational branches. For instance, the states of Nigeria are entitled to 4 representatives. The provinces of South Africa are entitled to 1 representative, and the territory of Tanzania is entitled to 1 representative. The executive meets twice a year, with subcommittees meeting earlier to be able to report to the executive committee. There are 3 of such subcommittees, and namely the Regional Representative Subcommittee, the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians Subcommittee, and the Program Planning and Finance Subcommittee. The headquarters of Cpa Africa Region is based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. They volunteered to host the Cpa Africa Region after Zimbabwe withdrew from the Commonwealth, and they had always hosted the headquarters from the inception. On the subscription, just international level, branches and subnational branches pay their annual subscription, which amounts are recommended by the budget committee, who then deliberate on the matter at the Program Planning and Finance Subcommittee, and then make recommendations to the Executive Committee, who in turn present such to the Annual General Meeting for approval. Since 2007, when for the first time, the Cpa Africa Region elected a treasurer, and in the name of Honorable Lindwe myself, the payment of subscription fees increased drastically from that time. The financial year of the association is from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. I'm not sure about the status now of the subscriptions. The association has accumulated enough funds that it was able to cost and release monies for the implementation of their strategic plan, and also was able to invest some of its monies at the Central Bank of Tanzania, and were able also to buy a huge piece of land with the help of the Tanzania government, and was to build the headquarters there and other necessities, including a block of flats and a shopping center that would generate more income for the region. There's also a society of the clerks at the table. This is a group of clerks or secretaries to the national parliaments and also to the provincial, state, and territorial legislatures of all the branches of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Africa Region, and has adopted its constitution for the first time in the year 2010 during the Cpa Africa Regional Conference that was held in Mpumalanga, South Africa. And it was the first time that a sub-national branch hosted the regional conference. These society members believe in developing strong administration of parliament and legislatures to build and maintain the respect for the rights of the people and to pursue the principles of democracy and good governance. Furthermore, the Society of Clerks is committed to develop a professional capacity of parliamentary staff in members' countries. The Society is also committed to build understanding and unity between countries of the continent. Objectives of the Society are to improve mechanisms in which the parliamentary and management practices of various parliaments and the legislatures of the Commonwealth may be made available and accessible to the members of the Society. They also foster among officers of the Parliament and legislatures a mutual interest in their duties and responsibilities, and also to assist in their professional development through exchanges of information, views, experiences, and best practices. To publish a journal containing articles relating to matters of procedure, privilege, constitutional law, and management practices in its relation to Parliament on an annual basis. It is further important to note that a subscription fee is also payable to the Society within a period of 6 months of budget year of the said Parliament, provincial, state, or territory. Failure to make such payment shall make all members in that institution liable to forfeit membership for the period of such term as determined by the Society. However, any retired member from the parliamentary service may become a life member of the Society on payment of an amount determined by the Society, or become an annual member of the Society on payment of a subscription of an amount determined from time to time by the Society. And another organ of the CPA is the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And on its evolution and the genesis thereof, that in the early struggles for women representation in the CPA, it began in 1989 from the informal meeting of women parliamentarians held at the 35th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference held in Barbados in 1989, initiated by Senator Norma Cox Ashwood of Bermuda. And for the first year, and for the part of the second year, Senator Cox Ashwood acted as co-coordinator for the Women's Caucus. It is likely to her if efforts that the CPA become into existence, CWP became into existence, and that the initial momentum was maintained. The turning point on the women's struggles in the CPA was in 1996. During that conference, the CPA conference held in Malaysia. At that conference, women delegates signed a petition demanding representation of women at the CPA and at the CPA Executive Committee. This conference will always go down as one of such historic epoch in women's struggle, given that it resulted in the election of the first woman as the chairperson of the association, not of the CWP, Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians, but CPA itself. And that was Honorable Billy Miller from Barbados. Following the election of a woman at the helm of the CPA leadership, this gave political will and enthusiasm for women to want to achieve more and transform the gender perspective of the CPA. In 1997, during the CPA conference in New Zealand, the word gender was for the first time included in the preamble of the constitution of the CPA. And in 1998, during the CPC, which is the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference, organized in Mauritius, the name Commonwealth Group, Women's Group, was changed into the current name of Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians. So it did away with group. And the good thing is that I was there in those conferences from 1996 until in 2019. In 2003, I had an opportunity to be elected as acting chairperson of the CWP for a period of 1 year while the constitution of the CPA was being amended. And eventually in 2004, I was elected and was formally elected at the conference in Canada as the first chairperson of the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarian International for a 3-year period from 2004 to 2007. The first priority of the new chairperson was to look at how to devise a strategy to increase women representation in Commonwealth parliaments. The Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting agreed to ensure a 30% women representation in all Commonwealth parliaments by 2005. That was a dream that is still up to date have not been realized in most of those Commonwealth countries and parliaments. It is perhaps imperative to indicate that this was a resolution emanating from the Harare Declaration of the Commonwealth Head of Governments meeting, which is commonly known as CHOGM, held in 1991. It's also important to highlight that within the regions of the Commonwealth, the Pacific was the most adversely affected as there was no woman elected in most parliaments of the Pacific. We collaborated with the Commonwealth Secretariat and the United Nations Development Fund for Women, UNIFEM, among others, and conducted workshops to intensify advocacy work for women representation and gender equality and awareness in those societies. These workshops further enhance my insight as the chairperson then international on gender struggles and enabled one to effectively use the experience attained from South Africa and mainly was from the African National Congress of the realization of confronting gender challenges in the Commonwealth and beyond. One such vivid moment, which still reflects in one's mind, was the inclusion of men in a workshop and other gender activists who were outside the parliamentary space. Certain interesting moments relate to engagement which took place in Tonga in the Pacific, where male members of parliament and nobles and gender activists were invited to participate in the workshop. In such engagement, one male member of parliament held a view that there shouldn't be a challenge of impediment for women to be elected because everyone is at liberty to campaign for their own seat in parliament. It was at this workshop that women began to reflect on patriarchal, societal, political, economic, and cultural malpractices, which gave women an unfair advantage and prohibit their meaningful participation in society. These included the prevalence of the masculine model of politics and the elected government bodies, which fees an environment where political life is organized according to male norms and values, and in some cases, even male lifestyles. For example, politics is often based on competition and confrontational rather than on systematic collaboration and consensus. We also realized the lack of party support in certain instances, which is characterized by limited financial support for women candidates, if any, limited access to political networks, and the more stringent standards and qualification applied to women. The lack of access to well-developed education and training system for women's leadership in general and for the orientating of young women towards political life. The lack of political will to promote women's rights and women's participation in politics, conflicts and wars in different societies resulted in women as the most affected victims, the nature of some legislature systems and their rules and procedures are not favorable to women, including the starting times of house sitting, which do not accommodate young family life. And the nature of the electoral system may or may not be favorable to women. Having been convinced and enlightened through discussion, this member of parliament, male member of parliament in Tonga, then committed himself to assist one female candidate to campaign during their 2012 elections in Tonga. Indeed, the outcome of that campaign culminated to an election of one woman in parliament. I must indicate that in my experience also as chairperson of the CWP International, I also observed that women who emerged to power from other parts of the world, of the Commonwealth, those who emerged from the first past the post electoral system were not always in favor of a quota system for women. These women feel that they have worked hard to establish themselves in the political realm, and that quota system are to an extent unfair towards women who are already in power. This could hurt the promotion of women's participation in politics, and the other experience is that country political power was attained through wars and liberation struggles tend to do better when it comes to equality and recognition of women. For instance, South Africa, Mozambique, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania, to name just but a few. One must indicate that the fact that quotas are meant to be a mechanism to redress the imbalances and must also be coupled with capacity building mechanism. They may be phased out when the set goal has been achieved. And in conclusion, as I said in the beginning, it is such a pleasure to have shared my experiences of 23 years in the CPA and CWP, and the opportunity that was given to me by my branch there in Gauteng and also Parliament on being exposed to the CPA and represent them, and also that I wish that this trend could continue. And I hope that this launch will indeed ensure that South Africa take its rightful place in the CPA and continue to lead. For instance, CPA South Africa, Gauteng then presented a motion that wanted to change the status quo of the CPA and ensure that the change from the charity, CPA should change from a charity organization to an international and diplomatic organization like the IPU. At the stage when one left in 2019, we're advanced in realizing that. But the one thing that was left was the British Parliament that was supposed to amend the laws there so that it changes and that CPA transforms from charity organization to an international and diplomatic one. Advocate Pindela was the legal advisor of Africa Region, and he was also utilized internationally to advise the Commonwealth and also to be a presiding officers in most instances where there were elections. And we would like to thank the likes of him and many others. Others are still living, others have passed on. But thank you to the presiding officers of Parliament who saw it fit that it is time and they need to share the information, bring in those who were there before to share the experiences. And for me, it is an opportunity that I can take up at any time. If you need my experience to be shared, I will always be available. As my gratitude and thanking South Africa for having exposed me in those 23 years that I was active in CPA. And I want to wish this launch all of the best and know that South Africa will always have the flag up and raise the Mandela land, as others called it in the CPA, and continuously lead in policy, in sharing experience, and also being open to learn from others. Thank you very much. Enjoy the launch. And unfortunately, I could not be with you physically and interact with yourself, but I indicated that if there are any questions that you'd want me to respond to, you can email me any question, and I will be very glad to respond to individuals or collective of questions from my email. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We must appreciate the. I wasn't aware that Honorable Lindiwe Maseko was so pregnant with a desire to account that she went beyond the time I assumed she would take. But do pardon me, because I was persuaded by its complementary nature towards the current chairperson who succeeded her, Honorable Justine Muture, that these two presentations are absolutely complementary, and that Honorable Maseko has indicated her availability to all of us throughout the 9 provinces and nationally to continue to do the what is her legacy report, so to speak, to inform those aspects that we should appreciate about the nature and character of the organization we are launching today in our parliament. Please do let me take responsibility and ask for that you recognize the difficulty I was in having to allow her to speak for so long. Time is of great importance. I will now invite what she called an election presiding officer with a little history that he has himself, Advocate Pindela, to do the announcement of the process. This will be quick, and he will be followed by Honorable Masondo and the Deputy Chair, Honorable Sylvia Lucas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Deputy Speaker, the presiding officers of Parliament, the speakers of the provincial legislatures, who are the presidents of the sub-branches, Honorable Muturi, my colleagues, the secretaries of the provincial legislatures, honorable members, my colleague, Deputy Secretary General of CPA International, Jarvis Matia, and all other colleagues present here today. Deputy Speaker, I'm informed that the following documents have been distributed: the CPA Africa Region Constitution, the CPA International Constitution, the strategic plan of CPA International, the branch constitution, as well as the CWP rules, and the charter. In terms of
the Commonwealth Charter.
That is correct.
Yeah, you must say it out in full, the charter. You may be talking about the Freedom Charter, you know? Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. In terms of the constitution, the executive committee consists of the co-presidents, the co-vice presidents, the secretary, and 5 additional members. The co-presidents, the panel, the co-vice presidents, and the secretary are the ex officio members of the members of the executive by virtue of their positions. And any other officer of the association, either at CPA International or at CPA Africa Region. The rules of CWP requires that each branch should establish a CW chapter, and the CWP can then determine its own internal arrangements. I would propose that the constitution be endorsed, as well as the executive committee of the branch, as well as the CWP rules. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Dr. Pindel, I request that you indicate to members what the implications of the endorsement are of the rules and the manner in which the executive of the branch is constituted, so that there is clarity right from the onset. I think indicate what the implications are and so on. You were pretty cryptic and provided it in summary. It's not a long thing that you should say. Yeah, please do so.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The implication is that the constitution would be applicable to the branch, and that the executive committee will start functioning as the executive committee as elected by the branch. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me invite the chairperson of the NCOP, Ndade Masondo. Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I would request that it be clarified what is it specifically that I'm expected to do. Having spoken at the beginning of the meeting, I guess now we're at the point where we should be formally endorsing the constitution of the structure and maybe some indication of the way forward.
Yeah.
I thought that Pindela would do that.
Yes, I was also expecting that. I thought you had a chat in advance. So can I ask him to do that, please? Honorable, in fact, Ndate Pindel, stop being coy and say things as we discussed them before with you and so on. So you are a presiding officer. I thought when I asked what the implications are, I thought you'd state them explicitly.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I thought I did.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
The first question that is being put is for the endorsement of the Constitution.
Yes. Okay.
The second question is the endorsement of the executive committee of the branch, as well as the third question would be the endorsement of the rules of CWP. The rules of CWP are the rules of CWP International, as well as Africa Region. So those would be the questions that I am putting forward, or the proposal that I am putting forward, Deputy Speaker.
Okay. Just talk to the constitution of the executive of the branch, how it should be composed. And we spoke, for example, about the executive and then additional members. We had agreed that the additional members would subsequently be done after further consultation in the House and so on. That's the detail that I would like you to go into.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The co-presidents, by virtue of their positions in the institution, would be the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces and the Speaker of the National Assembly. The co-vice presidents would be the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly and the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. And the Secretary to the branch, I have been designated as the Secretary to the branch, as the Secretary to the National Council of Provinces. And the additional members, as you have indicated, Deputy Speaker, after further consultation, the names will be submitted. Any other officer of the association, for instance, a regional representative, would be also a member of the executive committee of of the branch. The Deputy Speaker is already a regional representative, and he is also the convener of the branch. By virtue of that position, he will also be a member of the executive committee. The CWP, as I have indicated, will work out its own internal arrangements. In terms of the constitution, there should be a chairperson, there should be the vice chairperson, as well as 5 additional members of the CWP. Thank you very much. I hope that I have dealt with.
All right. Now you have spoken. Now you are explicit. Okay. Now I think we should go to the honorable members. Can we have an indication of the endorsement of the proposals as placed before us by Dade Pindela, drawing from the CPA Constitution and general practice? Is there any agreement? Can I have an indication from any member?
Deputy Speaker?
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy Speaker, it's Honorable Wenya.
Yes.
Honorable yes.
Honorable Winingwe. Yes, yes. I can hear you clearly. Yes, yes. Please indicate, ma'am.
Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker. And because we have passed our time of the program, Deputy Speaker, I'm not clear. I was expecting to get a thoroughly clarification in terms of the PW, of CPA and CWP.
Yes.
Formulator, I was expecting we are going to get that more in terms of that.
Okay.
I'm not saying let us not endorse, but I'm not comfortable about the explanation of Advocate Pindela. I'm expecting to get a decomposition of this structure. Since that we must also know, all of us, as we are here, CPA, what is the composition of CPA? Although we understand, but yes, Baba Masondo, he's a head of it. But I think for the benefit of other members, we need to know that. And CWP,
Okay. No, thank you very much. This is the explanation that I asked Honorable Dade Pindela to do. He did, saying that the usual practice is that at a branch level, such as in Parliament, the leadership of Parliament, the chairperson and the speaker in our case, as well as their deputies, constitute that executive. And then the secretary is, as this is part of the continuity, we may want to consider that continuity of the practice, that in this instance, Dade Pindela becomes the secretary of the branch, and the 5 additional members, we should get a composition that includes both houses, for example, and that must be determined not today, but after this meeting, in consultation with the rest of the parties. The chief whips in both houses, working with the rest of the chief whips, must agree on that composition. We would explicitly suggest, so that's how we do that. It's a small team that works together to drive the CPA work. So that's the first one. Secondly, the nature of the CWP, Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians. I would recommend that the multi-party caucus, which operates across the NA and the NCOP, must come together after this and agree that these are the principles and this is the composition. We would discourage the creation of new structures per se, but that we use the current structures that exist, that we think are appropriate. such as the combined multi-party women's caucus as a forum that will take those decisions and agree how they will share their agenda and so on. My own view is that let's deal with it that way and then inform us subsequently. We shouldn't take that decision here in this forum, but let the women structures of parliament come together, agree on the composition in line with how it is done usually. They can always seek the advice of Didiza, for example, and the others on how you can proceed to do it. That's to share historical precedents. If there are ways in which people would like to change, they can always recommend that. I would recommend that we go that process. We defer the decision of the specifics of the Commonwealth women parliamentarians in those structures to convene in less than a week. Now that we have launched the branch broadly, that the actual composition be handled within the next week or so. It can be done in an hour or two during the week. I know we are going all out on recess and so on, but let's try and have it composed, and then it can be handled as we proceed along. Is there any other proposal for us to endorse the?
Yeah, no, just to make a proposal, Chair.
Yes,
which will not
yes.
Really, it won't really differ from what we have said.
Yes.
Say that it will be very useful to ask Pindela,
yes,
to craft all of this into a very, very short document, a page after page,
yes,
so that it is circulated and distributed to all concerned.
yes, yes,
So that we get as a sense
yes.
of what is agreed to.
Okay, all right.
Chairperson, can you just allow Comrade Judy Hermans, because I saw she raised her hand. I wanted to agree with you, but can we just first give Comrade Judy?
Yes, okay. Judy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair, Comrade Deputy Speaker. I rise, Comrade Deputy Speaker, to endorse the executive as outlined by Advocate Pindela of the CPA, of our branch of the CPA. And also I wish to endorse the proposal that the secretary of the CPA be Advocate Pindela.
Okay.
I've so proposed. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can we just get an indication of the endorsement of this secondment as well as the proposal for the endorsement of the Constitution as well? You may not have it before you, but it's there.
There is Honorable Makubele.
Honorable Makubele?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I second the endorsement of both proposals of the executive and forward towards the other structure. Constitution.
All right. Thank you very much. So the proposals as presented by Ntate Pindela are agreed to. And as the chairperson has properly recommended that this be reduced into writing to indicate that this is the outcome and this is why, a brief one paragraph historical story so that it doesn't appear arbitrary and so on. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. Shall we now give to the Deputy Chair of the NCOP, Mayor Sylvia Lucas. Praat met ons asseblief, Noor Kapenaar.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I think before I start, I want to put this disclaimer. I think everything that I wanted to say was already said, but let me start with the protocols. Deputy Speaker, Program Director, our Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP and leader of the South African delegation, our honorable speaker, who also attended this really historical event in Parliament, the former chairperson of the Africa region, Advocate Ms. Maseko. I think for the Women's Caucus event, we must call her to give us a workshop with all the experience that she had up until the international level.
Yeah.
The Honorable Didiza, Honorable Pandor, and particularly also our guest speaker, Honorable Justine Muturi, the members of our branches and our sub-branches, the speakers and deputy speakers today, all 9 provinces is in attendance. And really it is quite significant. And we can see the interest that we really have in our multilateral bodies, members of parliament and provincial legislators, ladies and gentlemen. I think I must first of all appreciate the opportunity that I get to do this closing remarks on this. It is a very important occasion of the virtual launch. And I also personally, I want to express my appreciation to the Honorable Ngwenya. She was very persistent that this event must take place. I think it's important. Sometimes we don't know who is the backroom operators, and she was really insistent. She phoned me at night and said, please, please, this cannot be postponed. And we tried our best, and I really want to express my appreciation for the fact that you actually, Mangwenya, you realize the importance of us having our mandating structure for when we are going to CPA and CWP events. And the presence of everyone here demonstrates our commitment to take the lead in ensuring that South Africa joins the international, global and continental community, working together to deepen the Commonwealth's commitment to the highest standards of democratic governance and parliamentary practice. It is really encouraging to see such a diverse and multi-party delegation from our parliament and our various legislatures. CPA, I think the reason why I'm saying everything that I wanted to say, I don't think we need to get another historical perspective of what CPA is, but just safe to say that there is about over 17,000 parliamentarians and parliamentary staff that is part of the CPA body or the CPA family, let me put it like that. And I think we are really persuaded as South African parliamentarians that there is a need to provide us in the country with increased opportunities to be able to discuss our fundamental ideas and share our fundamental interests, advance our interests and the interests of the electorate as the people who elected us to speak for their aspirations and to champion their plight. And as a maturing democracy, South Africa needs every platform to promote and advance knowledge of the parliamentary democracy. If I listen to what, it was very interesting what Honorable Pandor said about the fact that there is a document of national interest that was developed. And it is something that we need to engage with, and that show that we need to really enhance our participation on all platforms, and that we also make sure that we actually defend, let me put the word, defend our national interest in all the platforms that we serve on. So the COVID-19 pandemic is a fact, has totally reshaped our work, the form and the content of how parliaments operate as we know them. As parliamentarians, we were now confronted with the urgent need of deciding how best to modernize and fulfill a political mandate that has traditionally been confined to individual institutions in face-to-face contact. We all know that currently we speak about virtual. There's become so much part of our debate, and we are just not operating the same way that we have been operating. But the constant is still remaining. And the constant is the fact that we are not an island as South Africa, and we need to be part of the continental and the global community. And the CPA as a branch and the CPA platform is just granting us that opportunity. And I'm sure I'm speaking for for you also, Honorable Deputy Speaker, you spoke about it, but being able to have a CWP, a Commonwealth Women Parliamentarian Forum, it will actually assist us with our sectoral work, the work that actually assisted us in leading us to be able to relaunch the Women's Charter and actually transform it into the Women's Charter for accelerated development from where it stood in 1994 and for the past almost 27 years. Honorable Deputy Speaker, like I said, let me express our appreciation to our different guest speakers for the inputs they make. Honorable, the President, or is it the President or is it the Chairperson, Honorable Masondo, and also the Honorable Didiza. It was like, I was quite impressed with the kind of programs and work that the CWP actually could do within the context of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Honorable Pandor, for reminding us that in terms of our multilateral and bilateral engagement and our responsibility as South Africa within the broader context, particularly issues that was raised that we have been speaking about, it is the fact that we need to make sure that we really determine our interests in the global context, but also that we address issues like currently we have the pandemic, that we have got a broader scope where we can really address issues like the vaccine nationalism that have actually begin to exclude developing countries and so on. It's just interesting. It was just interesting to listen to the different speakers, particularly also our brother, Honorable Speaker from Kenya, Honorable Muturi, and the Chairperson of Cpa Africa Region. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and we are grateful for the fact that we can have this kind of relationship so that we can at any given time just request or press on your number to be there to guide us and to lead us in what we want to achieve. Also to Advocate Pindela and the Secretariat, those that have been responsible for the setup of this specific meeting, and then particularly to the Deputy Speaker as a Program Director, very able and also very knowledgeable in terms of the issues of CPA, and all of those that attended without fail to make sure that this become a success. Let us really express our appreciation. We thank you. Kia lebo, baie dankie. Ek waardeer die feit dat ek deel daarvan kon wees.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair, and thank you very much, members. We really must apologize for having went above the time allocated, but it's in the nature of things. Berries do not ripen according to the wishes of the month. Thank you very much, and the launch session is adjourned.
I hope we haven't forgotten anyone. If at all, it just feels as if we haven't thanked Honorable Maseko, and this one we still need to come back to Parliament to assist us.
No, you did indicate that. Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Chair. We really appreciated your closing remarks. They are helpful and they draw attention to the things we must follow up. We will talk more with the staff about what we need to do, and we appreciate that you have already indicated where members can get hold of the presentations today. Thank you.
Long live the chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.